Hi, I am Becky Mitchell, and
I'm Lainey Clear.
And we're joining you from the Becker County Museum's Museum Roadshow. Today, we are getting a little spring fever around here.
We did. We have had a round of false spring. It's cold again, but we know that summer should be coming.
Eventually, summer will be here. We're in fake spring right now. And in the past, a big part of summer for many, many years was an event called Quake the Lake. And that was organized by Wint Johnson, who passed away a year or two ago now. Many of you know Wint from the Washington Square Mall, of course, but he was passionate about boats and Quake the Lake. And so his kids reached out and wondered if we would be interested in taking in some of his artifacts from those adventures. So you're going to see a boat that he had actually restored. That was a race boat for these races, if you will, and various posters and things like look at this helmet. Can you? My head isn't even.
Yeah, that would not fit on my head.
And that maybe speaks a little bit. I might be having some assumptions here, but maybe my assumption is kind of like the horse, jockeys.
A jockey.
That's the word I'm looking for, jockeys. I'm guessing you maybe had to be of a certain size to effectively race these boats, because do you want to show the little model?
Yeah,
lady?
that makes sense. So this is a model that looks very similar to the racing boat that was donated to us. Its little strings are just its artifact tags. But if you look at the little model gentleman who's riding in it, you ride in these race boats on your knees, sitting on your knees, and then gripping the steering wheel. And you have about less than a foot of a side rail holding you in that boat. So you're on your knees racing this boat. And this is a steering wheel from one of these boats. And you can see that it has these pulley grooves around it. That's because the way you would steer your boat is your outboard motor would have ropes connected to it. The ropes would come up your sides on either side of you, and then the pulley on the steering wheel would have the ropes wrapping around it. So as you turn the steering wheel, the pulleys move, effectively steering your outboard.
Incredible.
It sounds terrifying.
I would not, well, there's so many things about that just would not happen for me, but to be so vulnerable, I think, due to sitting up so high in it, on your knees, the lack of control between the steering wheel and the motors. I mean, I just wonder how many injuries they had. I guess I don't know that answer, but.
Well, that's why you wear a helmet.
Yeah, the helmet. And then look at this. I mean, we haven't been wearing these on the old pontoon or speedboat for many a year, huh? But these are actually from the family that came with that racing boat. So kind of the whole kit, if you will. But it just speaks a little bit of the sort of items, the unique items we have here at the museum, and how wonderful it is to be able to tell the story of an individual or a family based on just a little fragment of their life, but a part that he was so passionate about. And I don't know. Now you hear more. We, of course, still have some boat races that happen in town and snowmobile races that happen in the winter, but I don't know that, I could be wrong, but I don't know that I've seen these style of boats on the lake for many years now.
Correct. I remember going to boat races the last few times we did them. I was still in high school, but the boats look much more like we see in our posters here, where the driver of the boat is in their own contained capsule, where you're not just clinging to the top of a wooden boat for your life, which is exactly how I would feel if I was in that situation.
They have evolved, as all things do, of course. But what sort of qualifications do you think one would have to have? Just pure willingness to...
Yeah, I'd feel like you have to be a little bit of an adrenaline junkie to want to race these kind of boats. And they're probably the same kind of people who would be in those snowmobile races in the winter.
I suppose. And the other fascinating part about this, of course, is Wint's passion for restoring these boats.
Yes.
So that was one of the most intriguing kind of tidbits for me when I visited the home and saw several of these boats were in various stages of being refinished and just really a passion of his to preserve them and bring them back. And we're so blessed to be able to help now share this little bit of Becker County and Detroit Lakes history with everybody.
Especially the attention to detail that he gave in restoring these pieces. Looking at the wooden boat that we have that you'll be able to see here, he restored it with period materials. So he wasn't using his fancy impact screwdriver to put it back together. There are hundreds of tiny copper flathead screws that are spaced about an inch apart all the way around this boat, and that had to have been so incredibly tedious. I don't know if you've ever tried to restore vintage furniture with flatheads, but they're very frustrating.
Very tiny, very tedious. And not only did he do the boats, but of course restoring the motors that went along with them as well. So incredible part of our history, incredible recreational activity here in town. And we just are very thankful that the family thought of us.
Are there other important boats that we have in the museum's collection relevant to Detroit Lakes history?
Yes, several actually. We have two Ole Lynn boats. Of course, the Ole Lynn Boat Company was here in Detroit Lakes for many years and produced lots of boats. We have one that is hanging higher. I'm looking up at it right now, that has seen better days. It is very loved and well worn. And we also have one that was so loved they restored it, and it's kind of back to its original beauty and luster, so you can see those. Of course, we have one of the early boats, a birch bark canoe here at the museum. That of course our Native American population relied on so heavily for racing and traveling and what have you. We also have a racing canoe. So not only do we have the smaller race boats, but we have a racing canoe up high. And then similar to the Ole Lynn boat, we have a boat called a Kinnan boat from Frazee. They look very similar, and there's a fascinating story behind those of how those entities worked together for many years, and then they split, and they were producing their own individual boats, but were very similar in the way they looked.
Interesting. So Kinnan was based in Frazee. Ole Lynn was based in Detroit Lakes. If I remember correctly, the original Ole Lynn factory was kind of behind where Central Market is now, right?
Somewhere over in that area.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and I think that's been one of the most interesting parts of our museum is the minute we moved in here, the number of individuals calling us wanting to donate various types of boats was really fascinating. And so, of course, we have to be thoughtful in those donations and try not to duplicate very much when we take artifacts in.
Yeah, and I think that's such a hard thing, is because so many people want to donate these incredible artifacts. It's sometimes so hard to say, no, we already have one. It's not devaluing what these people are trying to contribute. It's just acknowledging that, yes, we have this big new facility, but it fills up really easily.
It does fill up really, and it's so hard when you go to homes or have individuals bring pieces in, and you see something that's just something you've never seen before. It happens all the time, but in this case, with the magnitude of from the posters to information on the boats and restoration and helmets, and I mean, there's just so many different components that you can really get up close and personal with. And like I said, I don't know that many adults could fit their head in that. So that's just intriguing all on its own. So make sure you come and visit all of the different boats here at the museum. I'm looking around, and we have 4 or 5 right in this room right now. So summer is upon us. As those kids are out on the lake and you're wrapping up a day, you might want to plan a trip to the museum and show them what the good old days looked like when you were on the lake in a boat. Thank you for joining us today on the Museum Roadshow.